Great. So let's start our class. So I want to talk. Well, I want to spend some time tonight to talk about the myth of the Buddha. So the story that kind of comes with the Buddha's enlightenment. So I want to stress it's a myth. So we kind of need to look at it as we would look like at, I don't know, like Greek myths or something. So it's not kind of something to be taken literally. But it has a lot of elements that are really worth reflecting on. So the Buddha, or the Buddha to be the prince, he was said to be a prince. He was called Siddhartha before he became known as the Buddha. So Siddhartha, he kind of had left the palace of his father and his family. He'd left all the kind of wealthy life. He left all of that behind, and he set off wandering, one could say, in search of the meaning of life. And so he spent his time living in the forest, and he kind of, in that time in India, there was lots and lots of other wanderers, other people searching for truth. So there were many teachers around, and he kind of, joined some teachers for a while, then left them, then, joined a few other teachers. And he did that for a while, and he kind of realized whatever they were teaching, it kind of helped him a little bit on his search, on his quest to find what life was all about, but it didn't really have a lasting effect. So every time he had to go, he had to leave them. And then at one point he thought, well, what if it's about, what if it's the body that is kind of holding me back to really breaking through with this matter, this question, what is it all about? And at that point, he actually started practicing self-mortification, and he was really good at it. He kind of basically stopped eating and, drinking, and he didn't wear any clothes, and, he was really good at meditating. So he's definitely like a very competent guy, this Prince Siddhartha. And he was so good at it that he kind of, at one point, he was bathing himself in the river and he collapsed and nearly drowned. And at that point, he kind of realized, this is not quite, the way to go, because here I am nearly dead and I still don't know what life is all about. So he, he decides, he kind of gets himself out of the river and he rests under a tree a bit. And a shepherd's girl passes by and she offers him some rice milk, and he decides at that point to kind of take it. And he had built up like a little group of followers at that point, and they were so disappointed in him taking this milk, and they thought, oh, what a weakling he is. He's gone all soft, he's not the guy we thought he was, let's just leave him. So there the Buddha was, very, very weak, realizing that what he had practiced for all these years had really not led anywhere meaningful, basically. So he decided, so he stayed there, resting under the tree. And as he was resting, he had his memory, a memory from his childhood when he was as a little boy. He was sitting at the edge of a field under a tree in a warm sunny afternoon, and he was watching his father and the men that were working for his father plowing the land. And he sat there all afternoon, just completely absorbed in this this scene, I suppose. So he was sitting there under that. It was said to be a rose apple tree, which I don't know what a rose apple tree is. I know what an apple tree is. So in my imagination, it becomes an apple tree, and you can just have like the atmosphere. I don't know about you, but I definitely have these kind of childhood memories where I'm just completely absorbed in, whatever I'm doing, even if that's just like watching ants or something, on these long summer afternoons, which you can only have when you're a child. So this memory comes to him, and he realizes something at that moment. He kind of, I think it's the memory of that kind of blissful, delightful absorption, that kind of things. There is something in there. And so I'm just going to stick with that image basically of the young boy, the young Siddhartha, who's just sitting there under the rose apple tree, watching the man plowing the land. And I've been thinking, what does this mean for us practitioners? And I'm a gardener, and I love, over the past year, I've become really, really interested in soil. And I was thinking, our practice has something to do with plowing the soil. We're getting to know what is right under our feet, getting to know what life is there, what is going on there. And it's about, and the plowing is the kind of the revealing, isn't it? It's kind of revealing everything. It's revealing all the kind of bugs and worms and, roots of weeds. And, it's kind of bringing things up to the surface. And I think that's a really good image for what we're trying to do when we meditate. Is kind of, we're trying to reveal our true nature. We're kind of digging into our own soil and kind of getting to know that soil. And one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is that we send like these what are they called? Rockets, and all this machinery. We kind of send it all up into space. We kind of know things about Mars and all these faraway planets, but we know very little about soil life, about the few centimeters right beneath our feet. There's very little known about that. And I think that's quite fascinating, because it kind of shows us that we kind of, as human beings, we always kind of want to think about the big things, the kind of what can we grow into, what can we kind of transcend, rather than thinking like, what is right here. And I think meditation is about what is right here, what is going on in the soil. In our soil, and of course, if you think about it, it's there's been a lot of studies done recently about the positive effects of being in nature and being in touch with soil, and like smelling the soil of the forest or something kind of brings, I don't know, it kind of gives a chemical reaction compared to taking antidepressiva. So, it's kind of, it really can benefit us on a literal level as well, I suppose. But I'm kind of more thinking here about a bit more of poetic level. So, and then I was thinking further about that. So what the soil, what does this mean? And it's a bit, we have this image of the earth element, isn't it? And our bodies are part of the earth. Our bodies are kind of fed by the soil, by the vegetables we grow and everything. So meditation is very much to do with that, that side of soil as well, with our bodies, with our being present with our experience. And if you think, so then kind of going back to Siddhartha's story, he kind of, for him, this was like very natural that, maybe for you, it feels a bit like weird. There's this woman on YouTube, you talking about soil in a meditation class. But for Siddhartha, it just came out as a very natural memory, basically. And I think this is Siddhartha's world was quite different from our world. I think we kind of, I don't know about you, but for me personally, my childhood memories, like at some point in my life, the adults in my life decided it was time to grow up and I should stop doing all these childish things. Whilst I think in Siddhartha's world, all these things we call childish just kind of carried on. He lived in a very animated world. You could also think of it as a sacred world. It's like people thought of things being sacred. Trees were sacred. Like weather was sacred. Everything. There's a quality of preciousness about the world. Whilst our world, of course, is very material and it's very it's very dead, isn't it? Our world. It's like everything has become a commodity. Even soil, soil is a commodity, isn't it? And Yeah, and I think it's interesting. We kind of really need to watch out for this tendency of materialism and commodifying. I don't know if that's an English word, but making things commodities. You know, that our practice does not become one of those things. Like our practice should be something sacred. It should be something that is alive, that we kind of feel is precious, and not kind of a commodity, something that helps us to fix something else, that helps us maybe to be more productive, or be more, I don't know, confident, or be more liked by people, or, you know, whatever it is. So I think there's a sacred nature of our practice, and I think it's important to kind of bear that in mind. And I was thinking then a bit further, because is this boy, you know, the young Siddhartha, he was like just sitting there, and he was just completely happy. He was blissful. He was just delighted sitting there. He didn't have to do anything else to feel fulfilled. He didn't have to do anything else to feel happy. He was happy in that moment. And that quality of absorption is something that, I always thought of myself being very lucky to be able to experience that quite easily. And I think it's that an absorption where you're just completely at ease with what is going on in the moment. And I think we kind of all can look for places where that quality of delightful absorption arises in our lives. And one place, I think one way to try to kind of find that or something, or recognize it, is like where do we get energy? Where do we get inspiration? Often these are the things where you kind of just feel content doing them without having to do anything different. So then just going back to the kind of, I don't know, the broader image. So there was like the kind of the Siddhartha who was like really trying very, very hard and realizing he wasn't getting anywhere. And then he kind of sat down and he relaxed. Probably he was just exhausted as well, but he relaxed into his experience. And that is a really important reminder that Buddhist practice is not about trying really hard. It might be about trying hard, but it is just as much about relaxing. So there's always like these two sides when we practice meditation, when we practice Buddhist meditation. And one way we can look at it in this kind of relaxing is a kind of becoming at ease with ourselves. We kind of start to open up, our heart softens, we start to open up, and we kind of there's a relaxing into our experience, into who we really are. And by doing that, one way of thinking about this is like, it's a bit like a change of heart. I know change of heart is often used in a negative way, but I was thinking of this in a kind of in this positive way, instead of the kind of, I need to get this done, or I have to do this to, feel I fit in. Like there's a change of heart, and you kind of start to relax into your experience and become just happy, I suppose, with who you are. You fully accept yourself, and by doing that, you are relaxing into your relationships with others, because it's always whatever we do inwardly has effects outwardly, even though we kind of might not think they have. So we kind of start to relax into our relationships, and just going back to this sense of sacredness is a bit, if we are completely at ease with ourselves, the way we are, we kind of touch into that kind of sacredness of the world. We become at ease and relaxed in the world. And I think I suppose for me personally, that's been like one of the biggest effects that I've noticed in after many, many years of meditating, is that being more relaxed with the world and in the world, and kind of starting to see this sacredness and how my life depends on the world. And it's a bit like everything in the world supports me and every one of you. This is not just about me, of course. It's this. The world is constantly working to support all of our lives. And it's kind of, there's a relaxing into that. Like, you can trust the world will keep on doing that if we kind of, open our hearts to this sacredness of the world, this kind of preciousness of the world. So this is what I wanted to say tonight. So I think tonight's invitation for the meditation is very much an invitation of relaxing down into your experience and relaxing, with each other as we're sitting. It's a bit virtually, but we're sitting with others, and there's nothing. I always find this. It's something very intimate when you meditate with others and you just kind of remember you're just sitting human to human, breathing the same air. And I think that is for me a very simple way to open my heart to the kind of the presence of others without, it's nothing like you need to fix problems you have with someone, or it's just kind of sitting in this common humanity with an open heart and allowing each other to be who we really are. So in that spirit, I would invite you all to make yourselves comfortable, and we're gonna have a little sit for about 20 minutes. So I really invite you to make yourselves as comfortable as possible. There's no use in being uncomfortable, being in physical pain. And maybe just take a few deeper breaths to arrive. And as soon as you take your posture in meditation, you arrive. You arrive on your seat in the world. You've got the earth beneath you, the steadiness of the earth beneath you, the shelter of the sky above you, and the world all around you. And just remembering the world working for you, supporting you in your practice. And so you're not sitting in isolation in some abstract place. You're just sitting your own home. And you're sitting here with others. So maybe just take a few moments to remember the others we're sitting with. Maybe start by softening the face, or maybe asking your face to soften. And allowing your forehead to soften, the brow to relax. Your eyelids are gently shut. Just very softly, lightly. And your eyeballs sinking back in the sockets. Your jaw is relaxed. The tongue resting in your mouth. And really seeing if you can relax your scalp, release scalp. And then just allowing your legs to release down. And it's supported by the earth. And noticing if there's any tension held in your lower legs. Meditation has a lot to do with the legs. Like we're often overthinking it. Maybe we can just allow our legs to release down a little more. And even if you don't do anything else for the rest of the meditation, just releasing your legs down. And softening your face. Just help you to stay present. And our legs, they're relaxed, giving us a stable base. And then maybe we can bring our awareness, our attention to the heart area. And just noticing what is going on. And just feeling your way into the heart. And just be quite gentle. The heart does not always want to have the spotlight on it. Sometimes the heart can just be hiding a bit, which is fine. And just with a lot of gentleness in your attention, just noticing what your heart is like in this moment. And just relaxing into your experience, whatever that experience is. Maybe we can have a sense of the breath supporting the heart. Maybe there's a memory, you've got your own rose apple tree memory somewhere hiding in your heart. Maybe there's a sense of well-being, sense of happiness. And we're not making an effort, trying hard to conjure up a memory or to make the feeling bigger than it is. We're just sitting with our hearts, however they are in this moment. Maybe there's a worry in your heart or a sadness. And we can remember we sit not alone, we sit with others. We sit in a world supporting us. We are held by the earth, by each other. And just keeping our attention with our hearts. We can invite a friend now into our meditation, into our hearts. And again, I'd invite you to keep it quite simple and just maybe first noticing what the effect is of inviting this friend into our hearts in this moment. And just leaving space for them to be who they are. Maybe it's a very positive, a very warm memory. Maybe we had a walk with them this afternoon. So as well as allowing them to be just staying sensitive to our own experience, to noticing if something has changed. If you're getting a bit distracted, maybe see if you can release your legs a little more. See if you can soften your face a little more. Allowing your breathing to settle around the heart. So whenever we do practices, the metta bhavana towards other people, it's important to stay in touch with ourselves, with our experience now, here, sitting, the earth beneath us, the sky above us. And just like the Buddha said, and just as a final stage, this is a bit of a brief version of the metta bhavana. As a final stage, I invite you to just imagine maybe one person you know who's here, who you know physically. Just imagining them sitting with you, meditating, breathing. And then slowly allowing this sense of solidarity with the others. We practice together. It's getting a sense of everyone in this virtual room, our virtual Buddhist center. And just a basic sense of human beings searching, longing to be happy. Slowly changing our hearts, opening up, softening. And then allowing that sense of solidarity, common humanness to expand to the people maybe we've seen passing by over the last year every day. Maybe people we've met during walks, shopkeepers, delivery people, all these people supporting us as much as we are supporting them. And just opening your heart to the sense of solidarity, being human. Breathing the same air. Just wanted to share this poem. And the days are not full enough, and the nights are not full enough, and life slips by like a field mouse, not shaking to grass. And the days are not full enough, and the nights are not full enough, and life slips by like a field mouse, not shaking to grass. But then in your own time, you can bring your practice to an end. So we've got some time now for questions or thoughts or remarks or anything basically you like to share. Just put it in the chat box. Let me see what comes up.
Thank you for that, Satyapara.
Thank you.
I found that analogy that you made with meditation being like ploughing the soil. Found that so evocative. Yeah, you know, it doesn't look very much, does it, the soil? You know, we take it for granted, and yet these magical things are happening.
Yeah.
And that is my experience of meditation as well, you know, that these extraordinary things emerge if we just sit. Yeah. And I had a lovely sit, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's you know, if you take the time to watch a little, I don't know, square, I was going to say square centimeter, but maybe that's a bit small, but you know, square whatever of soil, and first you think, oh, there's nothing going on there, and then you start to see everything that is going on. And yeah, and I think I like the image of the plow kind of bringing up you know, whatever needs to be brought up. And then, of course, the plow does that. And by doing this, other creatures kind of can feed, isn't it? It's like when you dig over, there's the robin coming to eat that worm that just came. And so it's like, yeah. It's not like, you know, with our experience, I suppose, it's not like we dig something up and then it's like it's just wasted. It's not, it's kind of then giving life to something else, I suppose. And
there's a couple of comments actually, so I'll just read them to you. So Craig says, does anyone else think that we always talk of mystics and sages as if they're back in the days, but in truth they are present now and could be talked of in our futures?
I think they are. I know one. I know a Sharon. He lives in West London. Yeah, I think there's plenty of people that are mystics, sages, you know. We don't tend to label them. I think after the witch, what do you call it? When they were burning witches back in the Dark Middle Ages, anyone who was a bit like more, you know, searching for something more was a bit like, you know, had to hide away. But I think definitely in our modern society, I think there's definitely plenty of people, who are sages. But again, it's, you know, it's like, it's the Maitreya writes this in the book we're doing, you know, The Journey and the Guide. He talks about, sorry, this is not very good. He talks about, and I don't know how to put it, but he talks about the context, you know, is the context in which we practice. And it's a bit like in the Buddha's day, you know, there were plenty of these sages all around, and we need to kind of look for them a bit more, I suppose. It's not kind of our context, is it, so much? But yeah, I definitely think there's plenty around.
Brenda says, what a lovely practice in its simplicity of focus on the heart, and it did soften the sense of sharing with others in the group, became very real with a sense of connection and warmth.
I'm pleased to hear that. Yeah, I think it is. It's interesting how much of a sense of connection you can build up by this Zoom, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it does. I suppose it involves a bit more effort, but a bit more imaginative effort. But I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, I think it's really good to kind of bring a bit more imagination into our meditation practice. You know, and I think I really kind of wanted to bring the Metta Bhavana a bit more down, bring it a bit more simple tonight, because we can easily get caught up in the phrases we think we should be saying, or, you know, things we should be feeling. And I suppose Metta is just as much about, if it's not all about accepting what is, isn't it? Rather than trying to change our experiences, fully accepting what is in what is going on in the moment.
Jeanette and Sharon both say thank you. It's beautiful and peaceful.
You're welcome.
And Sharon spotted the Ezra Pound quote.
Well done, you got a brownie point tonight. Yeah. It was interesting when I was reading it now. I was just thinking about, you know, and life slips by like a field mouse, not shaking grass. I thought, does that mean my life should shake grasses? You know. That was my reflection on the poem tonight. I think every time I read it, it's a bit different.
Just one more comment, I think. Sancha says, thank you. I have been researching the wonderful interrelations between the soil, fungi and roots. What a wonderful world, a wonderful analogy. And the heart, how lovely to think of feeding it.
Yeah, I've been reading up a lot about fungi, all of that stuff in the soil. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you from Paul.
You're welcome, Paul.
I think that might be it as far as comments are concerned.
Well, thank you very much. Sorry, go on.
Craig asks, are you a scientist?
No. I am not a scientist. I'm something even worse than a scientist. I'm an accountant. Yeah. No, I'm not forced to be an accountant. But yeah. I'm actually a gardener disguised as an accountant.
And Anna's got something as well. She says, thank you. It was lovely. I thought about how our attention changes things, like your example of the soil, like Maitri Bandhu mentioned, there's no single way of thinking about one thing.
Yeah, that's very true. I think also as soon as we kind of, it's a bit as soon as we bring our attention to something, it kind of already changes, the quality has already changed. And then with that, I suppose our response to it is changing. So yeah, I think it's just very fascinating when you start noticing that how things are not as fixed as you think they are. Yeah. And there's always something interesting going on. I think one of the things is one of the big, I mean, this is a whole different evening, I suppose. But around boredom, people can often think of like, just sitting, meditating must be very boring. It's actually the quality of attention makes it actually very interesting, and you kind of start noticing all the little details. And then, of course, if you do it more and more, you kind of start, I suppose, noticing changes, over time and day by day. Yeah.
Said says, you've well and truly redeemed the profession of accountancy in this wonderful class. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I wonder if it's time to hand over to Artisiddhi.
Great, thanks very much, Satyapara. That was great, and everyone else for coming, participating tonight. So just a little announcement, just to tell you about our up and coming return to the building weekend. We're going to make a bit of a sort of festival of it, so that we can actually sort of get a bit of time to meet each other. I mean, like face to face. Do you remember that sort of meeting? And that will be at the end of July. So we just wanted to give you a bit of a sort of heads up about that. We're kind of hard thinking and planning that weekend, so that we can really enjoy kind of coming together, this opportunity to come together physically, the richness of that. So yeah, just to let you know about that. And then lastly, just to say about meditation night. So thanks all for coming. As you probably know, meditation night, it's not really a service, sort of meditation service. It's more participative than that. So thanks all for your comments and for being here and participating. I see it a bit like a sort of a bit like a very open community that's constellating. So you're free to move in and free to go as you choose. So it's a sort of community constellating. And in Buddhism, generosity is at the heart of what community means. So we just give these classes freely. We don't personally want anything in return. That's what we want to do. So we're just here practicing, actually. This is part of our practice, and we're just sort of sharing that with you. And we do that, we give that freely. So in a way, if you want to sort of step further in, then you can be part of that sort of culture, part of that spirit. You could give. You may already be giving. But yeah, just to say that's the sort of spirit and the economy, basically, of what's that is the basis of these nights. So very, very good to have you with us. I think if you want to give a donation, Liz Ovidi-Saki will already have the thumbs up. So you can follow that in the chat box, follow the link in the chat box. Liz is also recruiting volunteers to sort of clean and improve the building, ready for that weekend. So you can probably find out how to do that on the website if you want to be part of that. She's shaking her head. Anyway, if you know Liz, if you're mates with Liz, then you can come and do that as well. But there's lots of different ways to participate in this sort of spirit of community. Anyway, lovely to have you all with us tonight, and next week we'll be doing the mindfulness of breathing. Dharma Siddhi will be leading us next week. So I hope you're all enjoying the meditation night series at the moment. I certainly am, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Okay, see you. Take care.